Hey guys, let me show you this one vegetable or succulent that grows abundance here. It's actually quite ornamental and it's so easy to grow. Years ago, I was given this plant called Madeira Vine because in the Chinese community, we call this teen chat or sam chat, which is actually a completely different herb that in traditional Chinese medicine used for blood circulation and for like bruising. They would help to like dissipate the bruises. But that herb looks similar to this one, but it is not the same thing. Anyway, this one is still edible. It is a succulent and it's native to South America, but in China and in Japan, they use this a lot. I had this growing in an old place, and when I moved, all I did was took a cutting of it and put it in this pot. This is a pot with the white sapote, which I thought I wanted to grow it here at one point, but I realized there's just no space after putting in like a couple hundred more things. So yeah, the Madeira vine has grown in and through this pot, is in the ground now. It's quite attached. I didn't intend to have it actually grow in this pot. I was going to put it in the ground and allow it to grow on this arch trellis, which, because you know, this is quite a pretty vine and it's edible. The leaves are edible. The roots, I actually heard that it's edible, although I've never tried because it's just stuck to this pot. Once I remove this and separate it, I will be able to grow it and then harvest the roots to eat, and then I'll let you guys know on that. But I heard that it tastes like potatoes when cooked. The leaves is what I have been eating all this time. It could be eaten raw or cooked. I think you can get diarrhea from eating too much raw, but I just put like a few leaves of that here and there in salads or in my juices. I mainly cook it if I want to eat a lot of it, like in soups or stir fries. This vine is in the Basilaceae family, which is actually in the same family as the Malabar spinach. It does have that similar texture to spinach once it's cooked, and when it's raw, it's a little bit more like slimy, similar to the Malabar spinach if you're familiar with that. Also, there's like a New Zealand spinach as well. It's just one of those very succulent kind of vines, and it grows abundance. It's actually invasive in some places, like in South Australia, in like, I think Tasmania now has some of these. So if they go out in the wild, they would actually have to pull some of it down because the stems can twine and grow really high up to like just take down branches and suffocate other trees if it grows, you know, when it's untamed, when it just grows like crazy. But over here in my garden, the reason I want to actually remove it from this arch is because it grows so fast, and now, you know, this space being so ever changing, I want this arch to be for my loofahs now. I originally wanted the Madeira vine to grow on this arch because I thought it was pretty and it was edible. All right, let's show you the vine. As much as I like this vine, my space is limited, so I will be removing this and putting it in a more confined space, maybe on like a 5-gallon bucket, and then just put like a tomato cage and let it twine, you know, in that certain space. This vine grows pretty crazy, and it grows really fast when it's warm right now. It's pretty drought tolerant because it is a succulent, but if you give it water, it would go super crazy. Now, there is a good and a bad thing about things that grows like wild or like what we call like invasive, is because it grows really fast and it's a really strong plant. But this also means that we can have abundance of food, right? As long as you eat it, as long as you keep it pruned, I think it would be fine. But I can see how this growing in the wild with, you know, no one there tending to it, it can be invasive. But in my space, I find that they are very easy to remove. If I don't like it, I just pull on it or I just like snip it off. So they have heart-shaped leaves. Oh, once I move this, I'm gonna miss being able to enjoy these beautiful leaves. Some call this plant the air potato vine. Japanese call this like land seaweed. I can see how it has that similar texture to like kelp when you cook it. It's a bit like a little bit slimy. I thought I should capture this moment before I remove this plant. So they form these aerial tubers. So when I'm like yanking on these things and or cutting, snipping them off, a piece of this, like, see how it like winds towards itself too. I mean, this is a vine. So if I don't like it, and if I like, there it is, I already broke it. The younger parts break really easily. And then these roots too, if they fall in the soil, they are going to root as well. And this is actually the easiest way to propagate, is to take these aerial tubers. I heard they do have medicinal benefits in traditional Chinese medicine. I have never personally eaten them before, but I go for the leaves. See how these aerial roots will just send another shoot out, and then the plant just keeps going. See, you don't even need to plant this entire ball. All you need is just a little chunk of it, just like the one I broke out. See how this one? You can plant the whole thing in and you're gonna get a massive amount of shoots coming out. That's also gonna send another shoot out. This is crazy, crazy. Look at that. See those green points? That's where the shoots will come from. So all you gotta do is, you can lay it there and then it'll shoot up, you know, the stems. And then the roots will grow to the ground and attach, and then those roots will make tubers. Or you can just simply bury this and then the shoots will come up as well. Man, you can plant these any ways you want. Drop it in the ground and it'll send down roots. It's just so cool to have it here, and it just shades off the things on the bottom too much. You can see I got things growing down here now. So I do need it to be bringing in some sort of light down here. So yeah, I mean, this plant will have no problems growing over your plants. It would have no problems growing under your plants, but it just gets a bit hard for me to maintain. See how this mesh has just got like smaller squares, so it is harder to reach through once it closes up the space with all these growth. I do eventually want to get some cattle panels, and then I'll switch this one out. It'll be a bit of a project because everything is built in now. It's just such a tight space to be working with. But I heard that cattle panels, they do deliver with a fee, so I'm pretty excited about that because I don't have a truck to take them home. This vine, as you can see, grows out like that, and it's just reaching to my tree collard. Excuse me, plant, I didn't tell you to go over there. Oh. There it is. So, ways to propagate this: plop, stick in the ground. Or if you lay it on the ground, the nodes will just send roots down. So you can see when I am pruning, if I accidentally dropped it or didn't clean up, you know, a couple of pieces, it's going to root itself. But whenever I see pieces where I don't want them to go, I just easily pull it out. So yeah, that's not a problem for me. And then the best thing about these, I think, yes, they do die off in the frost. This has never been a problem for Southern California, but I think it's a really easy way to regrow this plant if you just took, say, a piece of the arrowroot and overwinter it. Look at that. A piece of this will grow you a whole nother plant. So you can just, you know, save these arrow roots in your house, in your garage. I mean, just keep it somewhere dark and dry, or you can even just lay it. I swear, this thing, you just put it somewhere, put it in a box, lay it on the counter until, you know, when it's warm out, then you can plant this out again. And let me show you the one I have left for, I think, like 6 months now, and eventually is starting to grow. Here's one when I was pruning. I didn't have the heart to compost this because I thought it was kind of cool just letting it sit in this pot. And I think it's been 6 months now. Look at that. This pot doesn't get watered often, but look at this. See how it's like tiny little roots have grown. And then it started sending off their shoots already. I think this would make a really neat bonsai. Wouldn't it be cool to have like an edible house plant or grow it in the winter? You can have food in the house with this plant. That would be awesome. So yeah, that's another way to propagate these. And then the third way to propagate would be from the tubers. I have not tried the tubers yet, but I will once I figure out where this can be relocated. Then I can put them in pots so that I can, you know, keep them more confined, and then dump out the pot to harvest the tubers, because I heard that the tubers taste like potatoes when they are cooked. I don't know if you can eat them raw. I know for sure that you can eat the leaves raw, but I don't know about the aerial roots, and I don't know if you can eat the tubers raw. Oh, by the way, I guess I should show you, or actually taste the leaf for you here. I think this vine, if you're just growing it for food, you can just put it in like a 5-gallon pot, or maybe even something smaller. This thing is so hardy, I don't think it really minds. And then you can just stick like a tomato cage in and let it like twine around itself. But if you're looking for, like, if you're going for looks, I think maybe just dedicate a small space with kind of like a more like a wall, like a flat area, so you can really allow these leaves to show off themselves. I mean, they just have really beautiful heart-shaped leaves. And look at that. Oh. It's so like gelatinous. It's very succulent. It like coagulates. Very, very, very slimy. Oh, I should show you guys what the Malabar spinach look like, shouldn't I? I don't have any actually planted in the space yet, but sometimes they just kind of germinate, the seeds. Let me see if I can find you one here. This one looks like it just never died back in the winter. These are Malabar spinach. This is the red variety. There's a green and a red. I grow the red one. And they also do well just taking them by cuttings, and then they produce these little really beautiful red flowers that give off these kind of more tasteless but probably highly nutritious little black colored berries. And you know, those are the deep purples, but I don't know that for sure. I just eat things that don't get me sick. So do your research, guys. Don't just take my words for it, because sometimes I can be a bit more adventurous trying things. Okay, I can't find the Malabar spinach leaf to show you guys yet. I forgot where I saw it the other day. I'll include it in the video for you if I see it, so I can, like, you guys can see the comparisons, because when the leaves are developed, the Malabar spinach leaves have this like heart shape too, and they're that and the Madeira vine both are succulents. This thing grows in the shade, it grows in the sun, it grows in really dense clay soil. I mean, this thing is so hardy and so not picky. Let's just say if you got like a space you want to fill in really quickly to provide some shade, I think this would be a really cool plant to have, because it grows super fast. Here's another leaf. It's so succulent. Look at this. Can you hear that? Yeah. The tender leaves are, the more thinner leaves in these, I think are better tasting raw. This is better cooked when it gets a little thicker. Honestly, it is not my favorite raw greens, but I will eat it cooked. It's better cooked in like a nice soup or like a stir fry. It is pretty good. The tubers look similar to a sunchoke, but a more elongated one. If you're interested in growing this crazy plant with me, do check out my website. I also got some other plants. I restocked some of the things in the shop. I'll link it below for you guys. Let's see, what else am I leaving out? Oh yeah, so the flowers. The flowers come in these clusters of like more like a white and creamy white color. It is scented. It's not like my favorite smell in the world, but it doesn't smell bad at all. And those seeds are not viable in my area. So every time when I do a hard pruning, I get lots of it to make soup. Look how cool this is. This thing grows like crazy, which can be a bad thing or a good thing. Depends on how you look at it. But I would say, you know, if you plant it, just be responsible and don't be putting it in the wild. Don't be throwing it anywhere, but put it in a space that you want it to and tend to it. I hope you're enjoying this content. Thank you so much for making this far in the video. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you right back here in the next one. Happy gardening!